I checked it out with the police, and they said it's not it's a civil matter. My MPP also said, well, get a lawyer. There's so much unfairness out there and not a lot of ability to right it.
No benefits, no security, low pay, or sometimes even no pay at all. Those are some of the full-time realities for the many, many people who work part-time, contract, or temp jobs in our province. Tonight, we start looking at what could change. We are rolling out a new series called Hard at Work, our launching point. News that CBC Toronto told you last month about the province's plans to overhaul the Employment Standards Act, which sets workplace rules in our province. Stephanie Matisse is live on Queen Street now. And Steph, from that story, hundreds more poured into our inbox.
When we first broke that story, it just kind of opened the floodgates to hear from people their stories. The workplace has changed so dramatically since the Employment Standard Act was last changed in the early 1990s. So even just looking at some of the people here who would be going home to work, or some of the retailers, etc. Think of any industry, whether you're in retail, healthcare, whether it's the music industry, anything like that. It's likely that a lot of people are living either by contract or freelance or part-time. And so we did connect with a lot of those people that reached out to us, and tonight we're bringing you some of their stories.
And relax.
This has been Sandra Starr's passion for 3 decades.
Excellent. Okay, so just be careful.
Working with the elderly as an occupational therapist, though now more and more she's had to rely on contract work.
We're not employees anymore, and there's a lot of us out there.
Her contract with a small subcontractor called Ibira Healthcare was terminated recently without notice.
I just lost 80% of my billings, and he owes me $12,000. Ready, steady, go.
That landed in small claims court, where she successfully fought for compensation.
I'm just gonna check one more thing, okay?
CBC Toronto spoke with a number of therapists with experiences similar to Starr's. They had also worked for Ibira, where the owner had declined an interview on camera. But this issue isn't exclusive to healthcare. We also talked to a grocery store clerk who asked not to be identified because he's worried he'd lose his job if his employer heard this.
The company expects me to come in and put in the same effort that a full-timer does for the time I'm there, and yet chooses to pay me 30% less than they get paid.
He's a part-timer at Food Basics and consistently works close to full-time hours. No complaints about that, but
full-timers on my shift don't do any more than we do. So
same exact job?
Same job.
And
with a title.
And the price difference, or the salary difference?
About $6 to $7 an hour different. Figure a couple $100 a week. Adds up over the course of a year.
All the research shows that there is a dwindling middle class because of precarious employment. And
that's commonly heard at the Workers' Action Centre, where they say changes to the Employment Standards Act are way overdue.
The first solution is that no matter how you are hired, you have an employer that's going to take full responsibility for your working conditions, your wages, your benefits, and that they would be held responsible. The second solution is actually equal pay for equal work.
Yeah, Sandra Starr couldn't agree more.
It seems to be a greater population of people that are not employees and that really have no recourse. If you're being treated poorly, if you're not being paid properly.
So we also talked to the union for that grocery store clerk and found out that they've said that 80 to 90% of workers in some of their stores are part-timers. So the majority of people in those stores are part-timers. They say it's really crucial to look at that wage equality issue that worker was talking about, getting the same wage for the same job, whether you're full-time or part-time.
Stephanie, you mentioned the promised changes coming from the government. Where does that stand now?
Well, we haven't heard anything since we broke the story last month, but we do have an inkling of some of the ideas that are being bandied about. So whether that's the idea of mandatory paid sick days, or increasing vacation time or vacation pay from what's now 2 weeks going to 3 weeks, or the idea of abolishing that minimum wage that's even lower for students under 18 or for those who serve alcohol. Those are just some of the ideas, but there's a long list, and as you know, and we've been saying, we've been carrying carrying this online with some of the other details as well. And we're thinking that we'll hear from the government in the coming months. Certainly the Workers' Action Centre says that they would like to hear something very soon and is in fact expecting the results of the labour review before May. Dwight?
Thank you, Steph. So what if you feel you're being treated unfairly at work? Well, I speak to an employment lawyer who has represented both employees and employers about your options. Our discussion for you in about half an hour. Low wages, zero job security, and a general feeling that you're being treated unfairly. We've heard your employment horror stories, and we are bringing them to light as part of our new series called Hard at Work.
We're not employees anymore, and there's a lot of us out there.
The company expects me to come in and put in the same effort as a full-timer does, and yet chooses to pay me 30% less than they get paid.
Last month, CBC's Toronto First told you the news that the province is looking at overhauling the Employment Standards Act, looking at everything from whether part-timers should get paid the same as full-timers and whether employers should be penalized for making last-minute schedule changes. James Lenore is an employment lawyer. He represents both the employers and employees. Thanks for joining us, James. Let's start with some of the stories you're hearing from employees about this issue.
Well, we hear stories about people being terminated without getting their full payments, people not getting vacation pay, people who are required to become independent contractors rather than employees. Those kinds of common stories that we hear.
So if you are a casual or on a temporary or contract and you don't feel like you're being treated fairly, you're not getting paid on time, you're not being given the proper schedule, what options do you really have? Well,
your options are to go to a lawyer, to retain a lawyer to assist you, to go to one of the agencies that do assist you. In the example that you gave there, you can go to the Employment Standards Branch, file a complaint with the Employment Standards Branch, who will conduct an investigation, interview the employer, and determine if there's a remedy and a solution to the problem.
Now, you represent both sides, as we said. Is there a middle ground here to keep everybody happy? We understand businesses need to make money, but people also deserve to earn a fair wage for their work.
Yeah, the middle ground is what we say as a society should be fair wages for folks, and then putting that into law, and then the enforcement of the law, whether again it's through a lawyer or through one of the agencies that are available to employees to assist them in obtaining what their rights and remedies are.
And what's the breakdown now in the system? Because it seems some people are trying to skirt around things here. Is it that employees maybe they don't know their rights, or employers they don't know that their employees do have rights and there's certain standards that have to be followed, or people are just trying to get around the system?
Yeah, I think it can be both, Dwight, that some employers do not know what their obligations are under either the Employment Standards Act or under the common law, and employees just are not familiar with what their rights are. Most people talk to their hockey team, their bridge players, their choir friends, and don't always get the correct information in terms of what their rights and entitlements are. But the law is there, whether it is the common law or whether it's under one of our statutes. The issue is to how do we enforce it, and I think having the capacity to enforce it, meaning that these agencies are there. They have people who conduct investigations, but given what you've learned in terms of the series, these agencies are overwhelmed with the number of complaints, and it's timing of investigation. People get tired with waiting. The investigations take a certain amount of time in order to conduct them and to come up with the remedies. And I can tell you that there are officers in these agencies who are diligent and want to apply the law. It's just having the capacity for them to be able to fully meet all the demands that are on them with these complaints.
Well, we hope with these changes forthcoming from the government that things will be better for everybody in the end.
I think that's the plan, and that's what everybody would like to see, that there's a level playing field, and people do know what their rights, and we're able to enforce and give people the rights they deserve, and for employers to be able to properly and fairly conduct their business and make a living and deal with their employees properly.
Thank you, James. Since our first story last month, you've sent us hundreds of emails telling us about your working conditions. Keep them coming. Send them to torontotips@cbc.ca.